Hello. So this is day 3 of the webinar for intuitive fitness for empaths. And today we're talking about utilizing proven vitality keys for empaths. And so part 1, day 1, we talked about understanding the complexity of trauma recovery. So specifically focusing on complex PTSD, being an empath, and how much that affects our energy and our overall health profile. And then part 2, day 2, we talked about understanding the challenges of positive life change. And, that could be applicable for anyone, not just empaths or trauma survivors, but definitely there's a lot to deal with for those of us who have experienced trauma and are empaths. So what are those challenges and how do we overcome those challenges to experience something we've never experienced before and to live a reality we've never lived before? And then today, we're focusing on what I have observed in my own journey and with clients and with others that seem to be the most solid keys to improving health and vitality as an empath. So for myself, I did not even know that I was an empath until about 6-7 years ago. And, maybe I knew earlier than that I was in tune with people's emotions a lot more than others, and definitely a lot more than most men I knew. But I didn't really acknowledge how much of an impact it had on my life until 6 or 7 years ago when I started listening to YouTube videos by Amanda Flaker. And she has since become my spiritual mentor, but YouTube suggested her videos based on other videos I watched at the time. And I started watching all of the videos by her that I could because I wanted to understand more, kind of let her knowledge base sink in to my mind and my awareness so that I could understand what being an empath even meant and how much it affected my life. So I began to pay more attention to that. And then 4 years later, 2 years ago, I read Complex PTSD by Pete Walker and realized, because I could relate to everything in the book, and then later confirmed by my therapist, that I had complex PTSD most of my life, and I'm still dealing with the consequences of that. And even though, right now I can articulate very well all about complex PTSD and empaths and fitness and all of that, I still regularly experience emotional flashbacks and freeze and fawn responses and panic attacks and all of those things in various areas of my life based on how it reminds me of things in the past. So it's definitely something I am actively employing and actively responding to and actively trying to heal. So in today's session, when we're talking about, what are the things that have worked or seem to work most, I wanted to start with sharing a little bit of my actual experience and kind of the first glimpses into some of these things, because after I made it through Marine boot camp and combat training and and Humvee and 7-ton driver training. So 6 months of training with the Marines, and I got home and I was completely wiped out, completely depleted. And I was probably sleeping 12 to 14 hours a night, felt like a zombie during the day, couldn't think, couldn't function. This went on for a couple months. I know that I was just absolutely drained through that experience of 6 months in Marine training. And I had been diagnosed with hypoadrenia. So the doctor I was seeing put me on Armour thyroid, and I maybe felt a little bit better, but I couldn't really tell. And there were times over the next couple of years when I was on Armour thyroid that I would run out, and it would take me a few months to get myself together and get the prescription refilled. And I honestly could not tell the difference between when I was taking it and when I wasn't. Like, I knew there had to be much more going on than just thyroid because of how I felt. But there were a couple things that, as I got kind of recovered from my training, there were a couple things that did help. And one was something I mentioned earlier, was that it was recommended to me by the doctor that I saw initially to eat every 2 hours. And I was used to, in my disordered eating, just focusing on work, pushing past my hunger. I actually don't really remember ever feeling hungry. I just got weak and faint and felt like I might pass out. And I thought, oh, but I probably should eat something. But I never really got hunger. So if I was in that situation where I was trying to get my dad's approval, it wasn't working, he was mad at me for something, I was more mad at me, then, I was definitely going beyond and skipping meals and punishing myself and making myself work rather than stopping and being my own best friend and nourishing myself in those moments. So when I first started following that instruction to eat every couple of hours, that made a big difference. It's just crazy that eating food would help your body. So that was something that was very helpful in the beginning. So I became very disciplined. I could see the benefit of that, and so I thought, I'm gonna keep doing this. This is good for my health. I hope to recover strength and energy and vitality through eating consistently. So I carried that on. I could tell that was helping. And then the second thing that was helping was going to bed at the same time every night and getting up at the same time every morning. And I got particularly disciplined in this. And my reasoning for that was that I wanted my body to be able to know when it could recover and know when it had to use energy. And so I didn't want it always guessing as to how much longer it had to try to extend itself. And so I did that, and that helped. I noticed that being very consistent with my sleep patterns helped my body. And then the third thing that I did initially, and I described this on one of the days, was split the body into 14 muscle groups. And I had been for quite a while, and I mentioned this before, but I've been trying over and over to do workouts, and most of the time I was doing full body workouts, and I had all of these books I'd collected on strength training and fitness and bodybuilding and all of this, and I devoured every single one. And when I was getting ready for the Marines, I was doing a full body workout on one day, alternated by running, doing cardio on the next day. And for the most part, I would end up weaker and smaller because I was doing these full body workouts. And then definitely when I got back from the Marines, I was completely wiped out, and I was having to kind of start over and slowly build back up. And I was wearing myself out doing these workouts consistently, which I thought I needed to do to get stronger. And I did, but I was doing too much, and I didn't have enough energy to recover from the workouts I was doing, the style of workout I was doing. These full body strength and kind of plyometric cardio based body weight exercise routines. So I decided to see about dividing the body in as many ways as I could think of. And so I was able to come up with 14 different movements that wouldn't repeat, and I would do one of those movements every day for the 2 weeks and then do it again. So the thing that I wasn't sure about was that is this often enough? Like, I'm only working each muscle in my body once every 2 weeks and taking an entire 2 weeks to get through the whole body. According to the textbooks that I read, that was not enough. That was not frequent enough to let the body know that it needed to get stronger. So I did it and experimented with it, and what I began to notice after a month and a half, 2 months, was that I could actually do more repetitions. And I was working with body weight stuff, bands, resistance bands and tubes and all of that. And I began to notice that not only was I not wearing myself out, but I was actually documenting getting stronger. I was able to do more repetitions and eventually move to like stronger resistance bands and be able to move slower through some of the body weight movements, which is more intense. Then I was able to do more than I had been doing previously. So this was like the first time I was really successful at gradually getting stronger and getting a little more energy. So those 3 things were the first 3 things that I saw were helping, and I knew that they had benefit. So the eating every couple of hours, going to bed at the same time, getting up at the same time every day, and splitting my workouts, strength workouts, into smaller muscle groups, spread the full body over a longer period of time. And that worked within my energy limits. That honored the energy that I had available. So something that I realized, kind of this approach to healing that was a little bit different than just reading the textbook and doing exactly what it said and then wondering why my body was failing. I chose my sovereignty, I used my imagination, I used my intuition, and I practiced perseverance. So these 4 things: sovereignty, imagination, intuition, and perseverance. So sovereignty means I prioritize my self-care and well-being. Like, I'm not prioritizing my work. I'm not prioritizing everyone else. I'm prioritizing me and my self-care and my well-being. It's like, if I don't take care of my body, no one else on the planet will. If I don't invest in my strength, no one else on the planet will. If I don't choose my meals and nutrient timing and all of that, no one else on the planet will. So I have to claim my sovereignty, be sovereign over my own life and body, and make those changes, prioritize me, my self-care, my well-being. And then I use my imagination to know, what are my health goals and desires? What do I want? I'm going to imagine something better than I'm currently experiencing, something more vital, something more alive, and I'm going to build a plan to get there. And then 3, I use my intuition. So I listen to my body and I adjust as I go. So I'd already done a whole bunch of research on strength training and bodybuilding and exercising, and it didn't seem to be working as I was applying that. So I used my intuition, I listened to my body, and I made some adjustments to what was seemingly the ideal plans, and found something that worked better for me. And as I went along, I ended up experiencing more benefit and also being able to continue adjusting, because eventually I was able to do more than one muscle group a day and only working through the entire body every 2 weeks. So eventually I was able to do like a 3-part split. Like after a few years, I was able to get small enough to work the entire body over 3 days instead of 14 days. So, and then actually there have been periods of time where I do upper and lower every other day. And I keep switching around, but I play with it. I listen to my body. I do new things to test things out. And then the 4th thing is perseverance. The 4th approach is perseverance, staying consistent with my experimenting. So consistently experimenting long enough to give your body a chance to actually have a result from your experiment, which means at least being consistent for 6 to 8 weeks so that your body can respond, so you can tell whether that is working or not. And if in that time you are getting weaker and smaller, then you don't have to wait the whole 6 to 8 weeks to see what's happening. You may need to adjust earlier than that, but at least 6 to 8 weeks. If something doesn't seem to be having an effect at all, then maybe just keep consistent so that you can see positive results. So I've talked about this in the group before, but I don't think I've talked about this in this webinar yet. But there was a moment of time previous to all of this where I had been in my pattern of every once in a while starting a workout program, being super consistent with it, getting weaker, getting smaller until I couldn't carry on anymore, and being really frustrated because I thought, how am I going to get stronger and more energy if I don't exercise? So I have to exercise, but it keeps making me weaker and smaller because I didn't realize that I didn't have enough energy to recover from the workouts. So there was this one time that I had been consistent for 6 weeks and it didn't seem to be working, and I was really discouraged, really overwhelmed, really frustrated. And I thought, well, maybe being healthy is just not possible for me. Maybe being strong is not possible for me. Maybe being fit is not possible for me. And I thought, I do know what will happen if I quit, because I've been living that reality my whole life. But I don't know what will happen if I keep going. So I thought, even if I keep going and nothing positive ever happens, I know that the things that I'm doing are good. Like exercise is good. Eating enough food is good. Drinking water is good. Getting fresh air is good. I'm going to keep doing all these things that I know logically to be good for me, even if they don't seem to be helping, and I'm going to just see what happens. So I don't know. I know what will happen if I quit, but I don't know what will happen if I keep going. And that is when I started thinking about what are the simple things that I know are good for me. What are the simple things that are beneficial, whether it seems to be or not? And I've come up with a list of 12 things that are super simple that we know are beneficial, whether they seem to work right away or not. And so I want to share these because sometimes it's as simple as creating habits around this. And I'll talk about the positive life change process that we touched on yesterday a little bit in a second, because part of the positive life change process is identifying what are all the things that could be good for me, and then what are the things that I'm ready for. Because just because there are 12 simple things that can improve your health and well-being and emotions and your vitality and energy doesn't mean that you are intellectually or emotionally ready to do all 12 of these things. So you may pick 2 or 3 to start with that you feel ready to employ. So I'm going to go through this list, and you can jot it down. You can kind of tune in, see whether this is something that you want to practice more or not. So first one is breathe deeply. One of the biggest benefits of exercise in general is increased oxygen delivery to every cell in the body. So oxygen is life to the body. And so when you move and you exert your body in these different ways, whether strength training or swimming or dancing or walking, the demand, there's more cellular activity happening in the body as your body is being used. So the demand for oxygen is going up. So then the heart rate goes up so it can deliver more oxygen, and your breath rate goes up so you can take in more oxygen. So all around the lungs, the blood from the heart is pumped, and it goes all around the lungs, grabbing all of that oxygen that you're taking in while you inhale, and it carries that oxygen throughout your body and delivers it to all the cells. And so the more that you move and the deeper you breathe, the more cells get more oxygen. If you are sitting for most of your day, then it's a very low oxygen delivery to a lot of cells, and some cells are starving for oxygen. So if breathing, deep breaths is one of the benefits of exercise, then why not try to just breathe deeper throughout the day in general? One of the things that I noticed when I was I just signed up for the Marines. It was like the first time in my life I was outside of the home regularly. I was driving. I got in my own car and I was driving around on my own, kind of for the first time in my life at 22, and trying to find jobs and look at opportunities to save up money before I went into the Marines. And it was really overwhelming, and probably way more overwhelming than I even realized. But I would catch myself driving and not breathing, and then all of a sudden I would remember to breathe, and I would take this deep breath in, and it just kind of concerned me, why am I not breathing? And I didn't realize that was part of the freeze response. That's one of the nervous system responses to stress and triggers, emotional flashbacks and panic attacks and stuff like that. So that was something that I was noticing, was that I was just holding my breath or breathing extremely shallowly. And so it's been something that I have become more aware of over my healing journey, that I need to breathe deeper and more intentionally, more often throughout the day, not just when I'm working out, but all throughout the day. Now, a tricky thing that can happen with breathing is that depending on your trauma response, whether fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, any of those can cause a racing heart, whether you're breathing or not. And so sometimes exercise makes your body think it's having a trauma response. And so that's something to be aware of and prepared for, to help soothe your system, to soothe your body. You can place your hand on your heart, you can breathe deep and slow. You can remind yourself that you're not in danger and that you actually want to be breathing deeper and having a racing heart because you are exercising, and that this is a good thing. This is like something that you're strengthening your body and your system for. But in general, the first of 12 things is breathe deeply. Oxygen is life. So the second of 12 things is drink more water. And a lot of people just avoid water. Kristen says, I can relate. Yeah, I'm assuming to the kind of feeling triggered by exercise and racing heart and all of that. So yeah. So the first ingredient in the body, the first ingredient of every cell, is water. So there's nothing more abundant in the body than water, and water is utilized in every cellular activity, every hormonal transaction. So when we're dehydrated, things can go wrong very quickly, and we can get overwhelmed. And I think there was I forgot to make a note of this in a prominent place so I could find it again, but somebody was talking about a certain level of dehydration is equivalent to like early stage dementia. So making sure that you're hydrated is so important, but hydration is not just about drinking water, it's also about making sure you've got some electrolytes in there. Depending on the situation, you may need to add more salt to your food than you've been adding. A lot of people have been avoiding salt that actually need it. Some people do need to avoid salt. So this requires being in tune with your body, but there are electrolyte packets that if they don't have sugar or fake sugars in it, that can be really helpful to make sure that your body can retain the water that you're taking in and utilize it to stay hydrated. So I think the human baby is 80% water when they're born, and someone right when they die is about 40% water. And so there's a lot of factors that go into all of that, but staying hydrated and nourishing your body with minerals so that you can retain the hydration is very important. So that's number 2 in this list of 12 simple things that work. So number 3 is self-soothe, especially if you have had trauma, if you're empathic, if you're highly sensitive, if you're kind of hyper aware of life and very stimulated by life around you, and it can cause you to experience inner turmoil and energy drain and all of this, then being able to self-soothe in those moments throughout each day that you need to do that is so helpful. And we talked on day 1 about breathing, which was also the first point in these 12 items. So deep breath, bringing in lots of oxygen, helps calm the body. It knows it's connected to life. So slow, deep breaths. You can utilize singing. You can yell a little bit if you need to. And then touch. So hand on your heart, kind of tapping your arms, tapping your legs, reminding yourself, hey, I'm here, I'm in this moment. In this moment, right now, I'm alive and I'm okay and everything's okay and I'm in my body. And this is really, I can be here and be safe in this moment right now. Now, touch can also be touch from someone else. So like a good hug or cuddle. There was an observation that when people were in an auto accident, if they were held and hugged by people right after, rather than, being forced to answer the police questions and, kind of like not have any human contact, those that were hugged and held right after the auto accident were less likely to develop PTSD from the accident than those who were not. So that just shows how powerful touch is to soothing the central nervous system and soothing the nervous system activation responses of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So, and then the third way to self-soothe is to move. And again, that could be any kind of movement: yoga, walking, swimming, lifting weights, running, playing a sport, whatever it is that you enjoy doing, however you enjoy moving, is super beneficial for you. And for reminding your body that you are in your body, present to this moment, and it signals to your nervous system, your old brain, that it's okay to relax and let the guard down. So that was number 3 of 12, self-soothe: breathe, touch, move. And then number 4, sleep well. This is your body's primary restoration time. And I totally realize that some of you are moms and moms of young children, and that sleep may not be possible, like perfect sleep may not be possible in certain situations, but there are things that you can do to minimize disruptions to your sleep, such as having a blue light blocker on your phone. Sometimes they have a feature where you can turn off the blue, and sometimes they have it where you can set it to automatically do that after a certain time at night. The reason that is helpful is that blue light from electronics, whether phone or TV or laptop, is equivalent to the signal that your body gets through your eyes to all the chemicals in your body of the noonday sun. And so your chemicals respond to the sun. The light spectrum is actually different from with the rising sun, the noonday sun, and the setting sun, and it sends different signals to your body. So ideally, if you're able to get outside first thing in the morning and let your eyes take in the sunlight, because it's actually communicating to the hormones and chemicals in your body. And then get out during the middle of the day, and then get outside at the end of the day, just to expose your eyes to the different types of sunlight, the different color spectrum of the light, to send the correct signals to your body. And that is actually number 5, sunlight and circadian rhythm. So number 4 is sleep well. Number 5 is sunlight and circadian rhythm. But so back to number 4, sleep. When you are, looking at your full blue light phone right before going to sleep, like your body is just getting signals to be wide awake and active, and cortisol up and all of that right before trying to go to sleep. And so your quality of sleep is not going to be as good. And then things like blackout curtains, if that is helpful, if you do have to sleep during parts of the day, minimizing light for the time when you're in your bed, and minimizing sounds if sounds wake you up. There was a period of, most of my, all of my childhood, I had some kind of insomnia. I couldn't go to sleep for at least 2 hours every night. So I'd lay there for 2 hours every night, and then if I woke up and I was a super light sleeper, very hyper alert to every noise, it would take me another 2 hours to go to sleep. And I thought that was a good thing to be awake, just in case I needed to be awake for something. But after my experience with Marine training, I was so wiped out that I started and so hyper alert. My whole body was wired for any noises, and I just couldn't sleep. So I started sleeping with earplugs, and I realized that's not, possible for some people. They don't like that feel in their ears or whatever, but it actually helped me recover. And I slept with earplugs for many, many years. And I realized, the likelihood of the house burning down is not as high as me needing to get a good night's sleep. So, but sleep time is the primary time for your body's recovery. And so honoring that, being consistent with that, and altering how you use your electronics, and, use a blue light filter or blue light glasses or something to help make sure your body doesn't get the inaccurate signals from the light that you're exposed to. And then number 5 is sunlight, circadian rhythm. So this is about connecting with nature, whether that's the sun or feet on the ground, grounding. All of that, it has way more effect on the body than we've paid attention to. Sunlight and circadian rhythm. And then number 6, eat real food. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this as we go further on, but eat real food, nutrient-dense foods. And generally, most people know what's more nutrient-dense and what's less nutrient-dense. And so initially, just moving more toward nutrient-dense foods and away from nutrient-deficient foods is so helpful. And again, you may not be emotionally ready to make massive transitions, but what can you do? What are you ready to do? If you wanted to improve breakfast or lunch or dinner, if there's like a particularly problematic meal or even snacks, if you just make a list of what you're currently eating, and then like what might be a little bit better for you, and what do you know that your body does better with, and pick some of those things to switch to most of the time. So eat real foods. Make sure that you're getting essential amino acids. We'll talk about this more in a second. And then essential fatty acids. So essential amino acids, essential fatty acids. Other things are not essential, and we'll talk more about that soon. So number 7 of 12 is move and stretch. So the more that you move, the more that you stretch, the more oxygen and nutrients are distributed through the body. So this kind of goes in with the first one, breathe deeply. But the more you move, the more the oxygen demand goes up, the nutrient demand goes up, and therefore your heart responds with pounding more often and harder, and your breath rate goes up. And so you're creating a demand by moving, and then your body adapts to meet the demand. And if you do that consistently, you become more efficient in your body at responding to the demand. So pretty soon you're able to create a greater demand by moving even more and faster and more intense and higher and all the things. And you're able to meet that increased demand. So moving and stretching is so important for all of that. Plus, more movement, more circulation means less muscle adhesions. A lot of times people are doing repetitive work, whether that's outside, in their yard or garden, or inside at the computer, at work at the computer. A lot of kind of stillness in certain parts of the body, and then repetitive movement in other parts of the body. And so where there is repetitive movement or holding, like the shoulders are holding tight, so stabilized for the arm, and you're moving your mouse and you're typing on your keyboard and stuff like that, you develop adhesions or knots in the muscle, which is just these individual muscle fibers that are working together so often or holding together so often that they become stuck together. And instead of moving independently like they're supposed to, they get hard and they get stuck and they can only move together. And so then it kind of shortens the individual range of motion within those muscle fibers. And then you got to go to massage therapist and work out the knots. And most people just generally accumulate more and more adhesions throughout their muscles. And where there's adhesions and the fibers are sticking together, there's less blood flow. And where there's less blood flow, more adhesions are likely. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. So if you can move your body more often through greater range of motion, as much as you can get for every joint, then the better it's going to be for all of your muscle tissues, and you're not going to, accumulate more and more adhesions in the body. So if you can't see a massage therapist like myself, then do that as well. But moving and stretching is so important. So that was number 7, move and stretch. Number 8 is lift heavy things. And this is actually one of the most important ones, and what I've experienced as the most life-changing one. And not to minimize any of the others, but this is really significant because most people overlook it. So, your body is very efficient. It's not going to maintain ability or strength that it doesn't think it needs. And most people take their strength for granted, especially if you had strength as a youth. And I did not. So I am blessed in the sense that I am not probably going to take that for granted, because I know how miserable that is to not have the strength to function well and move well and to survive a day of travel trying to carry these luggage, and it feels like it's ripping my arms off because I'm not strong enough, or even just stay upright through an entire day of moving and putting on a seminar or whatever it was I was doing in those youthful days that I didn't feel up for. So most people have kind of just automatically have strength and energy in their youth, and they think it's going to last, and then it doesn't, and they think, oh, I must be old, and then they give up on it, and then they continue to deteriorate. Most of the symptoms of aging are actually symptoms of frailty. because they don't understand how the body works and how the body is super efficient. If you're not using it, you are losing it. And that happens way before you realize it. And I think the reason people don't realize that they're getting weaker and losing cardio capacity and all of that is because they do less things. So, maybe most people were active in high school and in college, and then they got a job and they started a family, and there was just a lot less time. And so they're able to carry on just fine with the activities that they are now doing. And so they don't realize, because they didn't carry on the more intense activities, that they are losing the capacity to do those more intense activities and lift those heavier things and all of that. So until one day they hurt themselves and again decide that they're old and they stop doing things that could hurt them. And instead of realizing, wait, I haven't been using my muscles, I need to start using my muscles so that my body gets a signal that I want to keep my strength. And so women tend to get osteoporosis more often than men, or at least sooner than men. And I think that's partly because men at least are expected to lift heavy things. Even if they don't regularly exercise, they're the ones carrying the heavier things. And so it may be just enough of a stimulus to prevent the bone and muscle loss that comes from not regularly lifting heavy things. So lifting heavy things is the key to signaling to your body that you need to get stronger, that you need to retain muscle and bone density. And the reason it includes bone density is because all of the muscles in the body are attached to your bones. That might seem obvious, but every time you use your muscles in a straining way, in a large resistance way, it's yanking on the bones that it's attached to. And so if your bones have lacked that stimulus, then the bones think they don't need to be as dense as they once were. It's like it's inefficient to the body to maintain really dense bones if it doesn't ever use them. So then the other piece is that a lot of people are not eating nutrient dense foods, so they're getting calories without the vitamins and the minerals and the amino acids and the fatty acids that they need to build the new cells that they're constantly making. So then the bone and the muscle is technically the least important tissue in the body. So when people are constantly eating food that lack nutrient density, then their body still needs to make those new cells. And so it's like we're not using all of our bone density and muscle density anyway, so we're going to cannibalize our bone and muscle in order to make our new cells because of the lack of nutrition that was supposed to be in the food that we're eating. So on the activity side, the lifting side, if you can tire out your muscles regularly, and I'll give you 3 simple exercises you can do to signal the whole body to get stronger. If you are wearing out your muscles regularly, tiring them out every week, then your body is getting the signal that it needs to maintain and or increase bone and muscle density. And a lot of women are afraid of bulking up, which in certain rare situations could be a thing. Some women may have more testosterone than others, and they may build muscle easily. But most of the time, it's really, really, really challenging. And you don't become Arnold Schwarzenegger by accident. You don't just wake up one morning because you lifted a lot of heavy things yesterday and then have some, solid muscles. So most women don't realize that, when they talk about wishing that they had their 16-year-old body back, in those cases, they are probably talking about a body that was very muscular, but it was also very lean. And so it is the muscle that give the 16-year-old version of themselves the shape that they envy. So getting back to that, and like I said, most of the symptoms of aging are actually symptoms of frailty. So you might stay the same weight for a long time, but you're losing bone and muscle density and gaining body fat. And so you look, you're roughly the same weight, but your composition is changing. You're getting softer and all of that. So strength training is so important for every single person. Not only everything that I just mentioned, but even though the bone and the muscle are the least important tissue because it's not as vital as like your blood and your brain and your heart and your organs and all of that, which are vital to staying alive, your bone and your muscle is like your nutrient savings account. So if you can eat really well and strength train, then you're building up your nutrient savings account so that you can outlast any injury or illness. There's a whole bunch of studies coming out ever since the world shut down with the pandemic. And one of those studies said that those that lacked muscle and bone density were 75% more likely to end up hospitalized when they had COVID than someone who had a lot of muscle and bone density and had COVID. So 74% more likely to end up hospitalized because of frailty. So it's literally the support for your immune system. It is so dense. Muscle and bone is so dense with all of the nutrients that your body utilizes regularly. It is like a fat savings account so that you can survive any injury or illness that comes along and gets you through it so much better with all those reserves. So I said there were 3 movements that help you recover and signal to your body to retain strength, and those are push-ups. You can do that against the kitchen counter. It doesn't need to be on the floor, but proper positioning is arms, hands and elbows below shoulder. So not like this. Don't put your nose into the corner of the counter. Put your chest into the edge of the counter. And so you just adjust your feet so that you're at the right angle so that your chest goes into the counter. That will help emphasize the chest more than the smaller shoulder muscle, the anterior delt. So if it's down here, you're going to be working chest, shoulder, and triceps. If you're up here, it's just shoulder and triceps. And it leaves the larger chest muscles out. And then for the opposite, the pull movement of the upper body, you can purchase a resistance band. Most of them come with a door anchor. And so you can close that into the door, step back until you feel the shoulder blades move forward, and then pull back and bring the shoulder blades together. And that is going to strengthen your back muscles, your biceps, and the rear delt. And then body weight squats, body weight lunges are the other simple exercise. You can hold weights if you want to, but all 3 of these movements, if you do them to fatigue, whether you have extra weight or resistance or not, if you reach fatigue and you feel that fatigue by quivering in the muscle or inability to keep doing the same range of motion, or you feel the lactic acid burning in the muscle. All of those are indications that your body has gotten the signal that it needs to get stronger. And so you can, let's say you do push-ups on Monday, squats on Wednesday, and rows on Friday. And you do a couple of sets each day, reach fatigue each time. That's all you need to do to signal to the body to get stronger. There's more that you can do, and if you're already doing a program, that's great. But just make sure you're reaching fatigue and doing those big movements. And then number 9, self-compassion. So we've talked about this each day so far. Self-compassion is the therapeutic bridge to thriving. So rather than trying to be more disciplined or harsher on yourself or punish yourself or shame yourself, have self-compassion. This will help you move forward. And then number 10, practice gratitude. This is the key to abundance. Recognize all the ways that you have been blessed already, right now, in this moment, all of the beautiful things that you have coming to you and that you are experiencing in life that allows you to see more good things. And then pretty soon, life is trying to show you more things because of the gratitude that you have and that practice of focus. What you focus on expands, and what you look for, you see more of. And so your life can get better through that practice. And then number 11, community. Supposedly we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, the 5 people that we are most influenced by. And so being sovereign, choosing your life, you get to decide whether the people that you are spending the most time with are the people that you want to be spending the most time with. And it's not a judgment of them. It's not a dismissal of their life circumstances. You can only ever be responsible for you. There's no one else on the planet more responsible for you than you. And that includes the people you spend the most time with. And you get to set boundaries, and you get to say, no, thank you. And you get to spend time with the most encouraging people around. You get to release the people that are not helping you get healthier or helping you walk in your sovereignty, that don't reflect your value and your power back to you. And then number 12 is purpose. What makes you come alive? So sometimes people are very clear about their life purpose, and other times people are really confused about their life purpose. But if you're really confused about your life purpose, what I've heard that's really helpful is what brings you joy. And if you just do the things that bring you joy, that make you happy, that delight you, that is a life worth living. So I think of the flowers, I think of the trees, I think of the mountains and the ocean. They're just doing their thing. They are loving life and kind of blooming in their own way. And so try to bloom. So we've reached an hour, and I have a lot more that I plan on going. So if you need to catch the rest of this later, you're more than welcome to, but I want to keep going a little bit longer and cover these other things that are really vital to the conversation. So we talked about the positive life change process a little bit, and so this is an intuitive momentum positive life change process. So we want to utilize momentum so that our choices in life naturally carry us to more and more and more health, more and more personal power, more and more vitality and energy. So some of these are small movements in the beginning that get bigger on their own. So rather than deciding I'm going to transform my body and my life in 8 weeks or 12 weeks, how do I make these small changes and adjustments that accumulate more and more result? So this process looks like, one, what do I desire? What are my goals and intentions? What do I really, really desire for myself? And then we have to ask, am I ready to experience this new reality? And if not, what fears and apprehensions come up around this? And then number two, what is my current reality? Like example, if it's nutrition, then what am I eating on a regular basis? If it's finances and job and relationships and all of that, what is my experience currently? And the most important thing is to remember not to judge yourself or be harsh with yourself or shame yourself, just witness. And I like to think of a healthy mother that is able to witness her child and see the character flaws as well as the brilliance and love the child regardless. So what is my current reality? And then what in my current reality is aligned with my desire and what is not aligned with my desire? So separating out what is already lined up with what I desire moving forward and what is not lined up. And again, just observing, not judging. And then number 4, of the things that need to be changed or aligned, what am I emotionally ready to change? And what am I not emotionally ready to change? Because you're not going to change everything that needs to be changed all at once. You're just going to change the things that you are ready to change. And maybe a few months down the road, you're ready for something more. But you're only going to change the things that you're ready to change. And then number 5, make a plan for the things that you're ready to change. You know, if it's nutrition, then it might be a shopping list, a meal plan, and you stick to that list, you stick to that plan. You only have things in your house that align with your new intentions. Doesn't mean it's all the perfect things yet, but all of the things that you're ready to adjust and align. So only have those things in your home, only have access to that. It might be making a exercise appointment with yourself, putting it in your phone calendar so it reminds you, oh yeah, I'm going to exercise at this time between these appointments, and I'm not going to reschedule this because this is me, this is so important, my goals are aligned with this. And then stick with it. Number 6, reevaluate your routine regularly, because this is a lifelong thing. If you plan on growing and expanding and maturing over life, then this is priority. You are priority. This process is priority. I'm going to keep dreaming. I'm going to keep assessing. I'm going to keep evaluating and choosing what I'm ready to change. I'm going to keep implementing, and then I'm going to keep reassessing again. So now I want to talk about briefly. Yeah, Elizabeth says, what I am emotionally ready to change is such a helpful way to frame our readiness for change. Yes, for sure. So, yeah, because the larger part of you is emotional. A very small part of you is logical. And so you may know that you want to do something, and it's kind of the harsh authoritarian approach to say, well, if you know you should do it differently, then do it differently. And that doesn't include the heart, that doesn't include the body, because your body is also very emotional and stores emotional memories. So tuning in to what you're emotionally ready for is so important, and doing those things that you're ready for first and then doing other things later as you become ready. So there's a few more things that are, those lists of 12 things are all the simple things that we can do, but there's a few things that are specific to empaths that I want to go over. And so some of this we've already talked about, so we can be kind of quick about this, but strength is more important than cardio. And the reason this is highlighted is because a lot of times people want to lose weight, and they think, since cardio burns more calories during the session than strength does, I'm going to focus on doing cardio so I can burn more calories. So a couple problems with that. Cardio training does not signal to the bone and the muscle to get stronger. And actually, it can accelerate the use of bone and muscle as fuel if you're not getting enough fuel. Because you're not really using your bone and muscle, you don't need very much bone and muscle to be able to run. So your body doesn't get the signal to increase the nutrient stores and the robust strength for your joints and your bones and your muscles that strength training does. The other thing is that cardio can deplete your energy quicker than strength training, which if you're just focused on burning calories, that seems like that might be a good thing. But if you are experiencing a lot of trauma and flashbacks, and you're dealing with complex PTSD, and you're empathic, and you already have a lot of energy draining things that we talked about on the last 2 days, then actually burning as many calories as possible is not ideal for your health. So building up your strength, building up your nutrient reserves by focusing on strength training is going to be much, much more effective for a robust health and longevity over the years to come than just focusing on cardio. So there may be more that I want to say about that, but I'm going to jump to the next thing now. So the next thing is walking is more important than cardio, and more important than high intensity interval training. So along the same lines, people talk about how you burn more calories if you do a high intensity interval training style cardio workout. And that is technically true. However, again, if you are dealing with complex PTSD and empathy and being highly sensitive and all those things, depleting your body of energy and nutrient resources really fast through these intense workouts may be working against you and may signal your body to use your bone and muscle as fuel to try to hold on to fat stores, and it's going to just work the exact opposite of what you want. Whereas going for a walk doesn't burn as many calories, but it has a lot of health benefits. So we talked about the circulation, the blood distributing oxygen and nutrients to more cells in the body, getting to more places in the body. It's soothing the nervous system, soothing the trauma responses. So for some people, and you are in charge of you, but for some people, going for walks and strength training is going to be more effective than doing high intensity interval training or P90X style workouts just to try to burn a bunch of calories and possibly damage their joints because they're not strengthening their joints, they're just beating them up. And then the third thing that's seems to be more effective for empaths and people that are juggling multiple health issues and trauma survivors is protein and fat for nutrition over carbs. And the reason for that I'm learning, and the last year and a half, 2 years has completely rocked my world, because I've been in the health industry for almost 16 years. And I've been trying to work on my own health for 19 years. And some of the things that I'm learning just the last couple of years have completely rocked my understanding, especially of nutrition. Because every cell in the body is made of amino acids. And if you didn't know, amino acids are protein. So protein is made of 20 amino acids. Every single cell in your body is made of amino acids. And so after water, the next ingredient, the number 2 ingredient in your body, is amino acids. And so some people can get away with not eating protein because they maybe genetically have a lot of muscle and bone density. There's always those situations, those people that do everything wrong their whole life. There's smokers and drinkers and all this stuff, and they live to be 90 years old. And my grandmother was one of those people. My great-great-grandmother, she lived to be 99, and she was a miserable, bitter, angry old woman. And she smoked like a chimney and drank alcohol and all the things you're not supposed to do. And they just she couldn't get knocked down. She was just vibrant, angry person. So, but someone like that is obviously has a really good genetic, good genes, and can last a long time, where other people have to be extremely strict. I'm one of those people that the more that I learn and the more that I adapt my nutrition, the more I realize I cannot vary from being the most disciplined person I know in my nutrition, because I have had so many issues, health issues and trauma issues throughout my life, that my body does not have a strong foundation even yet. I'm so thankful to have experienced so much improvement in my health and strength and fitness. But I'm going to have to be strict for many more decades to come in order to build up the density of nutrient reserves that will sustain me if I have to vary from the most nutrient dense foods. So, so something that I learned recently about protein is that there's the 20 amino acids. Every single cell in the body is made of amino acids. 9 of those, so almost half of those, are essential, meaning that the body cannot make those amino acids. It has to come from the food that you take in. And animal protein has those amino acids, because if you can picture it like a chart of 20 amino acids, and then the demand by the human body is different for each of those amino acids, but some of these amino acids are essential, meaning the body cannot make them on its own. So all the ratios of each of the amino acids is particular to the human body. And animal protein has all those 20 amino acids in the exact same ratio that the human body needs. So it's the most efficient, most nutrient dense way to get all of those amino acids. But animal protein is also not only the ideal ratios for amino acids, it has more minerals and vitamins than any other foods, which is incredible, because I'd always heard eat your vegetables, eat fruit, and I didn't realize that the phytonutrients in vegetables was not the same as the equivalent nutrients in animal protein, and it's less bioavailable. Plus, it has oxalates and phytates and lectins that inhibit absorption. And if you need to do more research on this, if you've been eating perfectly according to the way you thought you were supposed to be eating, and lots of vegetables and fruit and all that stuff, I would check out, and you're not experiencing the health that you thought you were experiencing or should be experiencing, I would recommend Sally K. Norton. Her website and her YouTube channel, she has made an obsessive focus on this after all of her health issues, and she's been helping hundreds and thousands of others heal their health issues by becoming aware of oxalates. And some people are more sensitive to that than others. But protein and fats have gotten a lot of bad press. But it's weird because there are essential amino acids, meaning the body can't make it. There are essential fatty acids, meaning the body can't make it. It has to come from the nutrition. But there are no essential carbs. There's no essential phytonutrients. There's no essential fiber. And actually, it's only if you're eating a lot of carbs that you need fiber in the digestive system, because you have a hard time passing things through unless you have fiber when it's mostly carbs. But your body actually converts up to 60% of all the protein that you eat into carbohydrates for energy. It just does that automatically. And a quick note here. So there was a lot of declarations and bad press about cholesterol in the late 70s and early 80s. And so since then, Americans have reduced cholesterol intake by 30%, have reduced red meat intake by 33%, increased fruit intake by 30%, and increased vegetables by 40%. And the results are that obesity rates, heart disease, stroke rates, and cancer rates have tripled in that time. Type 2 diabetes, autoimmune disorders, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, neurodevelopmental disorders such as autism, all increased exponentially and at the same time. So it's just really, really crazy. I would encourage you to do more research. If you want more resources on understanding this better, kind of to put your mind at ease, because I know it's a little just crazy from the typical narrative, but all these adjustments have helped me and many people that I have coached and known. So then some things to avoid: reducing the toxins that wear your body down, vegetable oils or seed oils, refined grains, and sugars. So vegetable oils have had a lot of amazing marketing as being healthier over the last decades, and so they were able to try to lobby to get all of the fast food oils switched to vegetable oils, and it's been promoted as heart healthy and all this stuff. But there is more and more research finding that because the omega-3 and the omega-6 balance is way off, oftentimes the omega-6 is 10 to 20 times higher than the omega-3, and the omega-3 fatty acid or omega-6 fatty acid is the one that is inflammatory. And that's actually a good thing. It helps repair. It's just like in the bones, there are the osteoblasts that are bone forming cells, and osteoclasts that reabsorb and break down the bones. So the bones are constantly being like torn down and rebuilt. And if it's happening at the same time, then you keep your bone density. And so some of the cells are tearing down, some of the cells are building up. And it's a natural, healthy thing that's happening. Similar with omega-6 and omega-3. Omega-6 is inflammatory, omega-3 is anti-inflammatory. So for health, it's ideal to have these two essential fatty acids at the same ratios in your body. But in seed oils, vegetable oils, it's often 16 to 1. So you're getting like 16 times more of the inflammatory omega-6, the linoleic acid, as the omega-3. And both are essential, but it's just way off in the ratio and the balance. And so all of these health issues seem to be linked. And there's more research being done, but it seems so far that a lot of the issues, including type 2 diabetes and a lot of the health issues, the heart issues and things that we're experiencing more of, is related to this imbalance. So, and then the last thing that is really essential, really helpful for empaths, trauma survivors, is that it's important for you to place yourself over others, to prioritize yourself over others. And I know that if you are empathic, if you have experienced trauma, your natural way of interacting with the world is to prioritize everyone around you and yourself last, because you feel like if everyone else is doing good, then I can do good. I can be okay. And that comes from trauma. As an empath, it's natural to just be in tune with everyone's emotional experience around you and kind of miss out on prioritizing yourself. So your job, should you choose to accept it, your mission is to make yourself the number one priority in your life. Because if you can fill your cup to overflowing, then you have something actual to share with others, rather than depleting yourself to build others up. Because that's not your life purpose, to drain yourself for the sake of others. Your purpose is to be as vibrant, as joy-filled, as abundant as possible, so that you can give of your overflow to those people that value it. That's the other thing that empaths often do, is they feel obligated to take care of everyone else and to make sure everyone else is okay, whether or not it's valued. And a lot of times empaths feel invisible because they're not valued. And they're doing all this stuff, laying down their life, bending over backward for these people, and they don't get anything back. And it's time to stop doing that. Become visible. Stop supporting people in invisible ways. Own your life. Choose your abundance. Choose your sovereignty. And prioritize yourself. No one is more responsible for you than you. And if you don't take care of you, if you don't prioritize you, if you don't support you, no one else can do it better. And the other piece of this that hopefully will help you move this direction is remembering that the most important thing you can do for everyone else in your life is to lead by example. Show them what self-care looks like so that they can take care of themselves, because everyone can take care of themselves. And so if you lead the way and you show them how to take care of you demonstrate how you take care of yourself, then others will be inspired to take care of themselves. So the last thing I wanted to do is talk about my new coaching package. There are different degrees of this, but the most thorough one is 12 weeks of weekly 90-minute appointments with me, where I coach you in depth in your life through everything that we talked about in this webinar and more. So week 1, we talk about design, honor your brilliance as an empath. And there's homework, there's prep work, and then our 90-minute session. Week 2 is self-compassion, honoring the trauma. So getting specific about your lived experience with trauma and the recovery journey. And week 3, understanding the 8 dimensions of health and making a personal assessment. So physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, environmental, financial, and occupational health. And so understanding where you're at in each of those areas. Week 4 talks about your dreams for each of those areas, your desires. Week 5 talks about moving from survival to sovereignty in each of those areas and identifying the barriers that you have to overcome. And then number 6 is the simple positive habits. So we talked about that a little bit today, and identifying how you can implement those habits in your life to transform your health and experience. Number 7, or week 7, intuitive positive life change process. So looking at all these things and applying the intuitive momentum to your transformation. And then week 8 is nutrition guidance. So specifically for you as an individual, what would be most helpful? Week 9, exercise guidance, personalized, individualized focus. Week 10, anchoring emotional and relational sovereignty. So understanding your personal power. And then weeks 11 and 12 are able to be customized to each person based on what we want to continue to work on. And so the full 12-week package is $4,444. The gold is 10-week version of that for $3,888, and silver is the 8-week for $3,222. And you get lifetime access to the fitness app as a bonus, and the Intuitive Momentum Fitness mentoring group. So I'm also offering 25% off any of those packages for those that have taken this webinar. And then I'm possibly going to do a group version where it'll be a quarter of the price for a group of 5 or 6 to do it together. So if you're interested in that, let me know. You can message me through Facebook or my website, kylarwellness.com. And you can also look at the details of this offering on my website under the Life Coaching tab. So, and I did want to mention that we talked about a lot about animal protein and all of that versus plant protein. If you are vegetarian or vegan, then I would recommend getting a essential amino acid supplement. So not a branched chain amino acid supplement, but an essential amino acid supplement. And there are a lot of new companies that seem to be doing a good job of plant-based essential amino acid supplements. So that would be really, really vital if you want to increase your protein in your body, but you are vegan or vegetarian, then that would be really important. So just wanted to mention that. Thanks for being here. This was 90 minutes. You guys are awesome. Please post any questions that you may have. And I love supporting you and encouraging you. and reminding you how powerful and amazing you are. So thank you very much and love you guys. Talk to you soon.